Hey, what's up, guys? It's Cree, and you're listening to another edition of Outside the Ring Wrestling Podcast. And sorry, this week, if you're listening, you can tell again that Paris is not in the studio with me. She's on vacation. You know, Thanksgiving is coming up, and so she's out with her family. So we want to make sure she has a great vacation as well as you guys as well. So we're going to start off with wrestling news as always. It's kind of short and sweet this week because not much has happened. But first things first, we do want to give our congratulations to Randy Orton and his new wife, Kim. They just got recently married in Vegas, I believe. So congratulations to him. I saw the pictures on Twitter. They looked beautiful. He seems genuinely happy, and I hope that this marriage does last. So congrats again to both of them. Next, we have Paige and Lana on Twitter kind of going back and forth. Of course, we'll talk about Paige and the controversial thing that happened with Charlotte on Raw this week. But Lana on Twitter seems to be more and more outspoken as time has gone on. For a lot of us, ever since she broke up with Rusev, her character got stale. You know, she got with Ziggler. She seemed kind of boring. Now, she has been out on injury because I believe she hurt her wrist. She had surgery, and now she's recuperating. And now it just seems like she's kind of turning into her old character. Now, for a lot of us, when we see Twitter wars, we really think, oh, it's a work. They're trying to get us interested in what they're doing. And I have to be honest with you, when I saw what was going on Twitter, I was kind of irritated because I always feel like the divas are always extra on Twitter. Like everybody else, but I just always feel like the divas are super extra. So, you know, Paige is just talking about trending because, you know, obviously with what happened on Monday Night Raw, it was something to be talked about, whether or not you were for it or against it. And so Lana kind of comes at Paige and she talks about how she's a bully and how Paige kind of bullied her in NXT. And Paige wasn't here for it. Summer Rae wasn't here for it, nor was Rosa Mendes. And it was interesting to me that Lana would reveal that someone that's younger than her, one, and two, someone whom we usually hear that Paige was the one that got dirty looks and stuff in NXT, but I just thought that was weird that Lana revealed that she got bullied by someone completely younger than her. Don't get me wrong, I believe bullying is a thing, but I always reserve it for, you know, younger people, like little kids. So when she said that, I kind of side-eyed her. I'm like, how the hell are you going to let a younger person bully you? I think we're all too old at this age to let people get to us. I think that once you get older, you either use your words or you use your fists. And if you're one of those people that don't believe in using your fists, use your words. There's no way in this lifetime I would ever think it's okay for someone to come at me and not defend myself. So whether or not that information is true or not, I kind of not look down on her, but I just kind of lose a little bit of respect for Lana. Like, how do you let someone talk to you or disrespect you in that matter, especially someone younger than you? There's just no excuse for that. But with Summer Rae and Rosa stepping in and saying that's not true, that's false, I don't know if Lana is trying to get some bit of relevance because she's not in the picture right now. And with WWE, it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind. So with Lana being out, who knows exactly what her storyline will be when she comes back? Maybe she's securing something. Maybe WWE is like, you know what? We need Paige and Lana to have a feud when she comes back. Honestly speaking, after seeing the work that Summer and Lana put on, I'm not interested in a Paige and Lana anything. Lana looked afraid to even slap Summer when it came to times where she and Summer had to have their little fight scene. So let alone someone like Paige who's completely rough around the edges, especially in her wrestling. Like, I don't want to see it. I don't care about it. So, I mean, honestly, if you have an opinion at it, you can definitely tweet me at Cookies and Cree and tell me what you think about Lana and Paige. Honestly, I don't believe for a second that was a work. I just think that Lana is getting really cute on Twitter like most people. And she sometimes writes checks that her ass can't cash. And I think that's what happened here. A lot of people think it's a work. I don't think it's a work. She probably generally feels a way about Paige. I don't know if it's because Paige was fucking with her in NXT or bullying her, to her words, but it seems like they don't like each other. Because it's been times before where Paige has tweeted about Lana and vice versa, and it was just never cute. So, I mean, it is what it is. And our last bit of news, which is on a better note, WWE just awarded 18 $10,000 scholarships to Full Sail students. So if you guys know, WWE has been working with Full Sail University, which is where they tape NXT, since 2012. So I think that this was a great way to kind of give back to Full Sail for what they've given them, you know, a place to obviously tape their weekly programming. And the fact that NXT is so popular now and they gain so much money from this small little studio that they use to have their shows, I think that's a great thing. So 18 students that get $10,000. As a college student myself, $10,000 is a lot of money, especially towards an education. So I hope these people don't waste it. They use it to the full capacity. Kind of makes me want to go to Full Sail right now, to be honest with you. But congrats to those 18 people, and kudos to WWE to giving back to where they've been at since 2012. I think that's amazing. Not many people do that, at least not in that capacity. And I think it's been a while since WWE has really promoted education besides their reading challenges. So I think that's a great thing. All right, guys, so that's WWE news, and we'll be right back to talk about Monday Night Raw. Okay, guys, so I'm back to talk about Monday Night Raw, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I cut out most of the fluff that happened. I only really talked about the opening segment of Raw and all the qualifying matches for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship tournament that's going on. As you guys know, that because of Seth Rollins' recent injury where he tore his ACL, his meniscus, and I believe his MCL, he's going to be out for the next 6 to 9 months, thus leaving WWE to kind of scramble to find their next champion. Personally, in my opinion, I think this tournament was great. The only thing is, what I would have done differently was have the winner of this tournament automatically face Roman Reigns at Survivor Series, because I felt like because Roman was already the number one contender, it felt stupid that he would have to do it again. But I guess in this particular instance, Roman has to again prove himself because he turned down Triple H, and you know, when you turn down Triple H, he makes things 10 times harder for you. So that meant him going in the tournament. But we're going to start with the opening segment, which was the Wyatt family and the Brothers of Destruction. So the Brothers of Destruction, known as Kane and The Undertaker, come out. And, you know, they have a promo about how they're going to basically finish the Wyatt family at Survivor Series. Weeks prior, at Hell in a Cell, when Undertaker actually lost to Brock Lesnar, the Wyatt family actually attacked him. And then the night after on Raw, when Kane trying to get vengeance for his brother, they attacked him and did the same thing they did to Undertaker by taking their bodies kind of like backstage or whatever. So the Wyatt family actually crashed this promo, and they talk about how they're kind of in control. So if you guys know, the droods that Undertaker and Kane famously have all the time, they kind of are a part of Undertaker's entrance. They kind of turn around to reveal that they wear sheep's masks, like the Wyatt family has their, I guess you would say, servants or minions. And in this case, those Jews then go to attack Undertaker and Kane. And like nothing, Undertaker and Kane get rid of them. And at this point, the Wyatt family is actually looking to attack the Brothers of Destruction. But Bray Wyatt says, you know what? We have a date with Destiny, and that will be Sunday. So they kind of just walk off. And what I will say about this particular feud, I don't know, maybe for me, I can't speak for everyone, but for me personally, I was never really invested in this because we had Undertaker and Bray at WrestleMania, and that match wasn't good. I think ultimately the nostalgia of having Undertaker at WrestleMania, at least because the year before he just lost a streak, I think that is what kept everyone so enchanted in that mini feud. But what I will say, because of the WrestleMania feud, Bray Wyatt did a great job of selling that by himself, because he didn't really have Undertaker having to come week after week to help him sell it. But he did a great job. I just think that now, this should have been months ago, honestly. I think that this feud now should have been maybe a couple of months before WrestleMania, and then WrestleMania would have been the final resting place for Undertaker and then Bray. But that's just me. The way how it looks, it seems like they're gonna bring back another WrestleMania match with Bray and Undertaker. I hope they don't, because that was like already done, but they've repeated Undertaker matches in the past before, so it wouldn't surprise me if they do that now. So next we have the first qualifying match for the tournament. It is Neville versus Owens. And of course, Neville and Owens, two NXT alum, they always put on great matches, whether it's together or with other people. And I have to say, Neville really put on a great show. I feel kind of bad because it always does show like when the mid-card does a great show and then, they never win. Obviously, they're there to make their opponent look great. They're there to sell and make sure everyone is enjoying and invested in the match. But I have to say, Neville would have been a great upset if he would have won and continued into the tournament. But of course, everyone knew Kevin Owens was going to win, and he did. And he did a great job with it. I think Neville and Kevin Owens should have a feud. I'm not completely sure if it would be for the title. Obviously, with Kevin being the Intercontinental Champion right now, I wouldn't want him to win this tournament at all, nor win the championship. But I think that this right there was a great starting ground for a feud between the two. And next we have Dean Ambrose versus Dolph Ziggler. Now, I have to be honest with you. I am a fan of both. Despite what Bree, Ashley, anybody else thinks, despite me and Dolph on Twitter, I am a huge fan of Dolph Ziggler. I think he is a great worker. I just think it's just easy to make fun of him. Like, him and Seth Rollins are probably the two superstars it is easy to tweet and talk shit about, because it just is. The way how they act on Twitter or in real life when they wrestle, it's just easy to make fun of them. But this particular match, I did not enjoy. Now, in my mind, I like Dean Ambrose. I love Dean Ambrose, to be completely honest with you guys. I love all the Shield boys, but he is not the best worker nor wrestler in the business. Like, earlier on Twitter, I asked, what's the difference between a good worker and a good wrestler? And, people have told me, obviously a good wrestler is like someone like Shawn Michaels. A good worker is someone that's like Hulk Hogan, the face of a company, but they're not necessarily a technician in the ring, versus, I think Shawn Michaels is someone that sells tickets, but compared to Hulk Hogan, I can see why someone would say that. But Dean Ambrose seems like he's a good worker. He's just not a great wrestler to me. But when we have Dean Ambrose with Dolph Ziggler, I was completely expecting for this match to be great, because Dolph usually puts on great matches. No matter who the opponent is, he puts on great matches. But I think on Twitter, he tweeted something to the effect of him working the match differently than he usually did. And I think when it's a championship tournament and you're trying to get your opponent to look good, or you're trying to get the attention of the people backstage to be like, you know what, maybe Dolph needs a really big storyline next month. I don't think changing your formula is necessarily the greatest thing. Like, I get, sometimes you want to change things up to make it look different. But I think when it's crunch time, you have to make the people backstage and the people at home remember why they love you. But with that being said, Dean Ambrose did pick up the win. Honestly, I just want Dean Ambrose to advance to the main event with Roman Reigns, which I expect him to. We'll talk about that later. But that match with Dolph did him no justice at all. It kind of makes me wonder if we would have gotten, Dolph versus KO and Neville versus Dean, how different would that have been, and would have been a better match? I don't know. So then next, we had the match of the night, in my opinion, and I think it should have been the main event, but it wasn't. We had Roman Reigns versus Cesaro. And let me just say this. Anyone that knows me on Twitter knows that I am both a Roman Reigns fan and a Cesaro fan. I am in both the Roman Empire and the Cesaro section. And this whole week on Twitter, I was so excited. And a lot of people were excited too. But I felt like Monday, that day in general, was just really messy on Twitter. As I looked on my timeline, there was a Roman Reigns fan dragging Cesaro, or a Cesaro fan, or someone from the IWC dragging Roman because they don't feel like he's as deserving. And of course, I asked you guys on Twitter, what do you guys want me to talk about? And a lot of you guys wanted me to talk about indie fans. And a lot of indie fans, sometimes they get offended when people call them out or talk about them. But I have to be honest with you. Indie fans, or the IWC, I like to sometimes I hate it, but sometimes you have to just group fans together. They are some of the craziest people. And I'm not talking about those that watch the indies as well as WWE and are completely cool. Shout out to Mick. He's one of the few indie fans I know on my timeline that can keep a straight head in terms of WWE product and indie product. He's able to enjoy the stars of WWE, and he can see who deserves to be where they're at without pushing the whole "they're from the indies" stick. But for the most part, most indie fans or people who aren't like huge WWE fans, they have this notion that indie stars like Dean Ambrose, Cesaro, Seth Rollins, Luke Harper, those people specifically deserve to be in the championship title picture opposed to like a Roman Reigns or anyone who isn't from the indies but is in the title picture right now. And I noticed it more with Roman because it's obvious Roman is a legacy, and Roman isn't someone that he isn't the best wrestler, and I will admit that wholeheartedly. Like, I don't lie about that. Like, compared to him and Cesaro is obviously the better wrestler, but I do think Roman has improved tenfold. I remember watching old FCW clips, and where he is now, where I would like for there to be like a kind of a common ground, he has improved so much on the mic, in the ring, everything. Now, with this particular match, Roman and Cesaro, of course, was 5 stars. You know, Cesaro, like I said, he can make a broomstick look good, and Roman, he has, like I said, he's grown so much. I obviously cannot wait for when either one of these two are champion and they have a feud with each other, like a full-on feud, because I just know the matches are going to be insane. But if Monday was just a taste of what it's going to be like when Roman is champ or versus when Cesaro is champion, they face each other, I will always buy a ticket to that show, even though my ass is broke. But that's besides the point. So, of course, Roman goes on to advance, and I'm like the happiest girl ever because I got to see my 2 faves fight before one of them got injured or one of them had to retire, like anything. Because what happened to Seth Rollins is probably one of the most annoying but yet saddening things that has ever happened. Because I remember originally when Roman was out with the hernia, and you know, we were really hoping that match at Night of Champions last year was going to happen, but unfortunately that didn't happen. And then come almost a year later, and then Seth gets injured. And of course, with Seth, I never expected that to happen to him. But of course, I completely understand why it did. Like, Seth was overworked like crazy. And I talked about it before at the last podcast. But he was overworked. I knew that from jump. There have been times where I would watch Raw and I thought, you know, this would probably be a great opportunity to write Seth Rollins off for maybe a month and then bring him back. I remember, I think it was the last pay-per-view actually, where he was with Kane. And I thought when Kane had dragged him to hell, I thought this would be perfect if we got Seth off of TV for 2 weeks and then brought him back the week before the pay-per-view to face Kane. But of course, you know, WWE was able to find a way not to do that. But you know what? Like I said, Seth Rollins, get better soon. I can't wait for you and Roman to pick up where you guys left off, because honestly, that match at Survivor Series was highly anticipated, and I think it would have been amazing. But back to what I was saying before, indie fans, you know, I think this whole week leading up to this match, a lot of indie fans were shitting on Roman, and then a lot of Roman fans were shitting on Cesaro. And I just feel like we have to come to this point where we should be able to appreciate talent in any capacity. I think if you're an indie fan and you know that this particular person is not from the indies, don't completely shut them out. I think that at this point in time, people should really understand that Roman Reigns is a fucking star. And I say that because, have you not seen the guy? Like, looks aside, he has the character, he has the persona that kind of draws you to him. If he was blindfolded, I would still look at Roman Reigns like, who is that guy? And while he may never be a Seth Rollins in the ring, he is strong. He has that brute-like force about him that you don't see a lot. I feel like the only few people in WWE now you see that brute force in is probably Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, and probably Bray Wyatt. Those are probably the 3 right now off the top of my head that I think has that aggression and that brute force that makes people like, wow, they're crazy strong. And I think with Roman, and I said this on Twitter, like I had a whole rant. I completely understand to indie fans why you guys feel the way you feel. I feel like with the reality era, it's completely different than how it was with the past eras. You know, ruthless aggression, attitude, federation, like all of that stuff. I completely get it. You know, with social media, WWE tries to pander to the fans. They try to get the fans to talk a little bit. And in that, we kind of expect things back. We think that, you know, with social media, Vince and all the people backstage are listening. They're supposed to take our advice. They're supposed to just listen to us and just give us what we want. You know, Daniel Bryan is probably one of the few cases where I look at it and I think, wow, that movement, as much as I can't stand most Daniel Bryan fans, and that has nothing to do with Daniel, but everything to do with how they act, I look at that movement and I say, wow, that was probably one of the most powerful things to come out of WWE programming in a while. The fact that someone that Vince probably looks at as not even a B+ player, but someone that doesn't even make the grade, for his fans to come back, create a chant that not only transcended wrestling, but into other sports avenues, and then have him in the main event of WrestleMania to win the championship, that's powerful. As much as his championship reigns recently haven't really transferred into anything of substance, to me, the Daniel Bryan movement will always be something in history to look at. And I see why the fans act like they do. Honestly, when you look at it, Cesaro, the Cesaro Section, that's another movement that's beginning. The only issue I have with the Cesaro Section as a huge Cesaro fan, you're not backing him financially. And a lot of people said this on Twitter, and I completely agree. It's very easy for us to print out these little signs and these little papers and pass them out to the arenas. But to Vince, that just looks like a fluke or a one-time thing. And yes, it's been happening around the country, even the world. And I think that's amazing. But Vince has always said it's all about the money. And that's probably the one Vince quote I say over and over on this show, but it's very much true. If Vince doesn't see that you're moving t-shirts and merch, he does not give a fuck. If you look at the arena on Monday, maybe it's hard to say because, you know, obviously the ringside seats are very scarce. It's not a lot compared to like the other side of the arena where you can see the whole bulk of the fans. But if you saw what I saw on TV, I saw a complete sea of Roman fans with the t-shirts, and maybe 5 to 10 Cesaro t-shirts, if not less. And with that being said, like I said, it's very easy to print out a piece of paper and be like, I'm in the Cesaro section. That's great, but if you're not buying his t-shirt, Vince will never care. And it's kind of hard, and I get it, because like Daniel Bryan, Vince doesn't really see the value in Cesaro yet. For some reason, he feels he doesn't connect. For some reason, he feels like he doesn't really pander to the crowd. And of course, you know, as his character can evolve over the next couple of months, I think Cesaro does have some things he needs to work on. I think in the ring, he's probably one of the top notch. Like, I think personally, in my opinion, him and Seth Rollins are the best wrestlers in the business right now. In the company, in the locker room, they're top two. But what's stopping Cesaro is, besides the fact that Vince doesn't really see it for him as yet, we have no reason to care. Had Vince not been on that Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast months prior, I don't think anybody would even know how Vince really felt. And that's the problem. We don't have a reason to care about Cesaro besides the fact that he can wrestle really well. So can a lot of people on this main roster. Neville is amazing. Luke Harper is amazing. Damn, even the divas are better than some of the boys. But we never have a reason to care. The only reason we care is because this high figure said that they don't see it for someone. And while we may have a difference of opinion, to him, this just looks like a fake movement. At least with the Daniel Bryan movement, I know I saw a plethora of Daniel Bryan shirts being sold. Even if Daniel Bryan wasn't the top seller compared to Ambrose and Reigns, I saw the shirts. You have to make a statement loud and clear, but we have to be honest with ourselves and make sure that the statement and this movement is at the right pitch. What's the point of yelling if no one can hear you? If we don't buy Cesaro shirts and Cesaro merch, whether or not it's the best tag team ever merch with him and Tyson Kidd, or the red Cesaro Section shirts. You need to buy them. We need to make sure WWE Shop realizes, wow, these shirts are selling like hotcakes. And then that means every so often on the WWE Shop update site, we'll see that he has more stuff coming in. Like every other day I see Roman and Dean have something new. And that's because they sell. That's because people want to buy those shirts. Despite how some of you may feel about the wrestlers, they're marketable, and that's all WWE wants. They want someone that's marketable. They don't care if you're that great of a wrestler in the ring. Look at freaking Eva Marie, and I'll talk about her really soon. She has a marketable look. She has a marketable phrase. Whether or not people fuck with her is because WWE can market that. They know how to put that into media, and that's all WWE wants. They want to be that media mogul that somehow can transcend not only wrestling, but music, movies, video. Like, I thought it was crazy that Cesaro wasn't really in the main event picture like that. But sometimes you have to step back as a fan and really look how the machine works. And unfortunately, I want him to be in the picture, but until he develops a better character for someone to care about, and until his fans really start getting behind this movement and buying his stuff, he's not going anywhere. But of course, like I said, I'm a fan of both Roman and Cesaro, and that match on Monday was just insane. I think that hopefully with this match now happening, this was something that could catapult both of them into a better standing. Obviously, Cesaro into a good storyline, and then, you know, Roman into the championship picture. So we'll see. And next we have the last qualifying match, Kalisto versus Alberto Del Rio. I have to be honest with you, just because of how great Roman and Cesaro did, I was kind of disappointed for this match to go right after. And not only that, the match was sloppy. ADR is usually not this careless, but I feel like now that he's in WWE, and I feel like a lot of people also feel like this as well, he's kind of sloppy and he doesn't really give a damn about what he's doing. I hope that this was just maybe a one-time thing with him and Kalisto, but he needs to care. Someone needs to care. So this was a quick win to me. I have to be honest with you. I didn't really pay attention, and I usually love ADR whenever he wrestles, but this particular match was really slow and it wasn't anything to be desired. But ADR picked up the win, so he'll be going into the finals at Survivor Series. So this wasn't a qualifying match, but this was something that was very controversial on Raw. This was the Divas contract signing. Now, a lot of us were kind of confused as to why the Divas were closing out Raw, but I thought this was a good thing. I thought it was a step in the right direction. You know, obviously with Brie and Stephanie last year, basically headlining Raw for their match at SummerSlam, I thought this was something that was going to be great, but it was kind of hard for me to really care because Charlotte and Paige's feud in general was kind of, it wasn't really white hot like people thought it was, and then to just give them the main event spot was weird. So, you know, we have the contract signing, and it goes like how a regular contract signing goes. You know, they have their little words. But what was different about this particular signing was that Charlotte brought up her brother, who was now passed, Reed, and how, you know, he was a huge influence for her being in this business. And then she kind of transitions to how she kind of wanted to be Paige. Because when we look at it, Paige and Charlotte, like many of the female legacies and even the male legacies in the business, they grew up having these famous mothers and fathers in the business, and they wanted to be in the business. And sometimes they even have family members who wanted to be in the business. I know that Paige has a brother that wants to be in the WWE. He's not there yet, but he definitely wanted to be there. And I believe Reed as well wanted to be in the WWE. But unfortunately, him passing, that was now something that became Charlotte's thing to live on for her brother. And it got, like, ever since she brought up Reed, for me at least, it got really uncomfortable. Now, I'm one of those people, a lot of people felt differently on Twitter after this, but I'm one of those people that doesn't like to really bring up personal life in terms of storylines. I feel like with Divas, it's done more so than the boys, and I'm not really sure why that is, but it's completely weird, and I feel kind of weirdly about it. Now, towards the end of this contract signing, Paige then tells Charlotte, you know, your little brother, he wasn't really much of a fighter, or something to that effect. And I thought, wow, who greenlighted that? Who thought that was okay? Now, you know, there's been speculation on Twitter and all these other dirt sheets that Charlotte was the reason that they brought up Reed, and it was really her opinion and her idea to bring him up. And I have to be honest with you, while she may have brought him up, I think that it's because she's still very new. And I think maybe someone in the business said, you know what, it would be really great if you brought up your brother. Bring him up, and then that could cause you to want to fight Paige. And her being new, she can't say no, because if she says no, who knows if she was to lose that championship on Sunday to Paige. So I feel like maybe she was kind of muscled into saying yes. But if she did say yes, I'm still not sure how she felt comfortable doing it, because every time I've ever seen Charlotte reference her brother, she's always seemed overly emotional. So I can't imagine her bringing him up in a storyline and then having someone else say such a thing to her. I don't know. For me, it's weird. After Paige said what she said to Charlotte and her kind of get into a brawl. Now, I will say the brawl was interesting and it was good. I don't know. A lot of people were thinking that this particular line was going to make us care about the storyline, and I still don't care. I just hope that this match on Sunday is something that when we look back on it a couple of months from now saying, okay, that was worth it. And sometimes I feel like with the Divas, they do stuff and then it never really comes out as planned. So it's kind of like it was never worth it to begin with. They didn't even sign the contracts. That's how bad the storyline. Like, I just feel like this was something that was planned at the last minute of Raw. In my honest opinion, I feel like Vince and creative, their head was really at this championship tournament. And then they remembered, oh, hey, we got other matches we got to completely do, because they didn't even have the traditional 5 planned out yet. From what I'm hearing, there will be one, and we'll talk about that later. But at the end of the day, it's weird. So they have the brawl, they end up breaking it up, and that's how Raw closes. Raw was a good show. I think it was a good show. The only thing that kind of turned it off for me was that particular segment, and I do think that some of the matches, I didn't talk about 3 of them because I felt like they weren't important, but those 3 matches were whatever. I feel like they could have been kept. I felt like we could have focused more on the championship tournament and then Divas, and then maybe building the traditional 5-on-5. The fact that Raw was gone and we didn't even really know who was in the match. We didn't even find out till Tuesday there was a match, but it's weird. I know I referenced Eva Marie a little bit earlier, talking about her markability, but I do want to talk about her. I didn't watch NXT last night, but all I know is that she and Bayley will be having a championship match for the NXT Women's Championship. Honestly, I have to be honest with you, because someone did reference both Roman and Eva Marie in the same instance on Twitter. And it's weird because I don't completely compare Roman and Eva. They're 2 different people, 2 different situations to me. I like Eva. Let me start out with saying that, because I feel like a lot of people, when they talk about Eva Marie, 9 out of 10 times, there are people that don't like her at all. So whenever they try to discuss her, it's always something that's horribly out of base and completely wrong. I remember a couple of months at TakeOver, I did see her match with Carmella, and I have told other people I was completely disappointed in her, because I felt like for her to come into a huge wrestling state like New York is and not put on a better match than what she did, especially when she's trying to basically prove to everyone she's better, was a huge no-no. Now, a lot of people are upset with the whole fact that she has a championship match with Bayley. Personally, I think that Eva is going to eventually need a title shot. As much as people don't want to believe me, there's no way she can be back at NXT and be undefeated and not have a title shot. There's so many male superstars who've been undefeated and they got title shots. It's ridiculous if you guys don't feel the same. Like, it's just not. I know you guys have your feelings about Eva, but we have to think logically about this. At the end of the day, Eva's undefeated right now. While you may not like her, you may not think she deserves it, this is what makes sense on paper. Now, Bayley has gone on record and said that she's wanted to work with Eva. So I think that's another thing that people have to get over. I do think Eva needs a lot more training than what she's at right now. I did think that her training with Brian Kendrick was a huge stepping stone for her, because where she was last year, abysmal. But where she is this year, way better. Obviously, I think that her and Bayley, it won't be an amazing match, obviously. It won't be like the quality of the matches of the girls before, but I think it's something that can get people invested. Just like Dana and Asuka. While Dana is not the best in the ring, her and Asuka were able to get people invested and interested in that little match that they had at TakeOver Respect. Now, I think Bayley and Eva can do the same. I know a lot of you are just like, she's getting special privilege, and I completely agree with you. I think Eva gets a lot of special privilege, especially for someone with little to no skill. But Eva could be a top heel if she applied herself and if she started working harder than what she is. I'm never gonna be like, I'm a huge Eva Marie fan. I like her, but until she shapes up and she gets into the best shape and best technical ability than she could, I just think that you guys need to just learn how to either ignore her or just boo for her. Like, don't be disrespectful, because some of y'all are really disrespectful, but just learn to ignore her. There's so many people in WWE you're not gonna like, whether it's because you don't like the character or you don't think they're a great wrestler, and that's fine. But when you guys take it personally, I think it's a little bit too much. I think you either need to turn off the TV or just reevaluate why you dislike that person. Like I said, it's valid if you don't like Eva because she's getting special treatment. I think that's very much so. WWE gives her special treatment, and I feel like for other girls like Cameron, who's working hard to rebuild herself, she doesn't nearly get as much privilege as Eva does, but she gets just as much as hate as she does with like Eva, probably even more. Speaking of Cameron, Nate, who helps me and other people run views from OTR.com, he has an article called Push Cameron, which is part of the Push series, where we basically talk about superstars and divas that deserve a push. I also just recently wrote an article on Hulk Hogan and whether or not I think he should not come back to WWE, so definitely check it out at viewsfromotr.com. So that was Monday Night Raw, and I'll be right back to talk about the Survivor Series predictions. So it's time for the Survivor Series predictions, and if you're new to the podcast, what Paris and I usually do when we do a pay-per-view predictions is that we go either reality and fantasy-based predictions. So fantasy being what's least likely to happen and reality being what's most likely to happen. Sometimes these kind of transcend each other because Paris and I tend to have these big imaginations, but bear with us. And of course, you guys are always welcome to tweet me and Paris your predictions, because hopefully we will be tweeting during the pay-per-view, and we'll be able to get our tweets out to WWE and whoever else is watching. So first, we're going to start with the pre-show. It was revealed that this week that Sasha Banks and Natalya are actually going to be the pre-show match. I'm not sure if we're going to have an additional pre-show, but for now, I believe they are the pre-show, which is good. I'm a Sasha Banks fan as well as a Natalya fan, and I feel like these are two women that we don't really get to see on Raw a lot. I feel like Team Bad and usually other superstars are now, at least after this so-called Divas Revolution is now reserved for main event and superstars. It's good that they're trying to incorporate new matches into the pay-per-views. Personally, in my opinion, I know I'm probably asking for a lot. I think that every pay-per-view and every Raw, well, not every Raw, but every pay-per-view, we should have 3 Divas matches. 1 for the pre-show and 2 for the main show. I feel like 9 out of 10 times, out of the 7 matches we get collectively for every pay-per-view, we only get 1 Divas match. And I feel like the women should be able to showcase a lot more. With Total Divas being a successful show, there's no reason as to why the Divas still only get 1 match. That's just ridiculous to me. But for fantasy, I have Natalya. And then for reality, I have Sasha, obviously making Natty tap out because they're both submission specialists, I guess you can say. Prediction for this match, I do expect Team Bad to make an interference in this match, whether it's for Sasha's benefit or against her. I do see Sasha getting beat up on by Naomi and Tamina, because if you guys have noticed, much to my chagrin, Naomi isn't getting wins like how Sasha is. Sasha is undefeated right now on Team Bad, and Naomi and Tamina are always the ones to lose, more so Naomi. So I see this as an opportunity for Naomi and Sasha to start a feud right now, building both Naomi and Sasha, because it's very obvious that they're going to push Charlotte and Sasha for WrestleMania. So we'll see what happens. Maybe they'll go a different path, who knows, but that's what I envision for them right now. So the main show. I honestly see them opening the show with a qualifying match. The first one I do have written down, and like I always say, I don't know the order of which the pay-per-view will go. I just put down what makes sense to me. I see Roman Reigns versus ADR being the first match of the night. And of course, fantasy and reality booking, Roman Reigns all day. I see him winning and beating ADR. It's going to be a very grueling match. I do see ADR trying to work Roman's arm, because even before he left WWE, he was always great at submissions and working the arm. And I think that's what he's going to do with Roman. And we all know that Roman's strength for the Superman punch is with his, I believe, his right arm. So we'll see what happens. I hope it's a physical match, but I also hope it's not as sloppy as ADR and Kalisto was this week. Because we all know that Roman and ADR seem like two very strong personalities, and I think if you throw that into a ring and someone fucks up, it's going to get really real really fast. Next, we have the Divas match for the WWE Divas Championship. Charlotte versus Paige. I honestly have no expectations for this match. I hope that they do well, but I honestly see this match being very short and not much to desired. Reality based and fantasy based, I have Charlotte. I'll be surprised if Paige actually beats her, but I do see Charlotte knocking Paige off as another victory for her, and maybe a victory for her family. Next, we have another qualifying match. I have Dean Ambrose versus KO. Fantasy and reality, I have Dean Ambrose. Obviously, if KO wins, that'd be obviously a great swerve in the tournament, and I think him and Roman will put on another great match. Weeks prior, Roman and KO had a great match on SmackDown, and if Kevin Owens never ran, I don't think we would have been desiring it as much as we are now, but I really want another Roman and Kevin Owens I really want another Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens match, because they work so well together. Ever since they had that fatal 4-way and then they had the match at SmackDown afterwards, I've been hooked on their chemistry, so we'll see. And next we have what I think will be the traditional 5-on-5. Now, right now, I don't really read SmackDown spoilers, but I do see the traditional 5-on-5 being New Day and The Ascension versus the Dudleys, the Usos, and Ryback. That's what I see the 5-on-5 being. Of course, there will always be changes. I'm not sure what it will be, but just based on the matches on Raw, where they had the Dudleys versus the Ascension, then New Day and Ryback and the Usos were facing each other. So that's what I see. And next we have the Wyatt family versus the Brothers of Destruction. Oh, sorry, let me just backtrack. Fantasy for the 5-on-5, I see, for me, I would want New Day to win because I love New Day. I think that they need to keep pushing them as a unit. Reality, I see probably Team Dudley winning with the Usos. But yes, going back to the Wyatt families and Brothers of Destruction, fantasy and reality, surprisingly, I have the Wyatts. I think that Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family really needs this win. They have no momentum right now, and it's just Undertaker coming back, but they have no reason to win this match because they have nothing to gain, honestly, in my opinion, but we'll see what happens. And then the main event, which I hope will be the main event, hopefully, because I am a Shield fangirl. Dean Ambrose versus Roman Reigns for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And of course, you guys know, like I've been saying, I'm a huge Roman Reigns fan. So fantasy and reality booking, obviously our next WWE World Heavyweight Champion has to be Roman Reigns. Now, with everything that happens in WWE, you can never expect anything to just come to us so easily. I do expect some swerves. I expect a Dean Ambrose heel turn, and I expect a Sheamus cash in. Now, honestly, what I see happening, as much as I want, let me just say this, fantasy booking wise, I want Dean to turn heel on Roman, and then Sheamus tries to cash in, but he fails. But reality booking, I can see Dean turning on Roman. and then Sheamus cashing in and winning the championship. And that causes a Roman and Dean feud. And then obviously we'll trickle down to the Royal Rumble where we have a triple threat with Roman, Dean, and Sheamus, where Sheamus loses and Roman is the new champion. And then we go into a great WrestleMania match, but we'll see. Now, a lot of people wanted me to talk about Roman being heel. I have to be honest with you. I want Roman to be heel. I think that this has been something that should have happened a while back, but I think WWE is going to keep him face at least until maybe the Royal Rumble. I think personally that Roman needs to align with the Authority. It'd be a huge boost to his character. Like, we had Seth Rollins as kind of like the child of the Authority, but I think Roman Reigns would do an amazing job kind of picking up where Seth left off. You know, Triple H wanted Roman Reigns to be his man, and I think that he should have taken that offer, at least probably not in public as yet, but as the months progress, or at least until Sunday, then he can prove, oh, wait, I really wanted to be the man all along, and now that's what I'm going to do. A lot of people are against Roman being heel. Obviously, they want him to be face until WrestleMania because they want him to have that moment of him winning the championship as a face. But I think whether you're face or heel, it never matters in the business anymore. People are going to love you, they're going to hate you. So as long as the story is hard-hitting and it makes sense, go for it. I personally think Dean is going to turn heel, but to me, that's a predictable choice, at least to me. Others can probably tell me their opinions. Whether or not he's face or heel, I think Dean Ambrose will never have a character change. At least right now, his whole lunatic fringe character is no different than what it is before. So even if he's a heel, it doesn't really change much of anything. So I think that with Roman, he's more likely to go with Authority than Dean is. Dean just looks like he's just trying to perpetuate chaos, and that's good and fine, and I think that makes it predictable for unpredictable for Monday Night Raw. But I think Roman can really mold himself into, I don't want to say a Seth 2.0, but like the prototype for the Authority. So we'll see. I'm really pushing for that Reigns heel turn. It probably won't happen right now, but if it does happen, I'll be completely here for it. I'm just ready for Roman Reigns to not only fight dirty, but to have these promos where he's attacking the crowd, making them feel bad for him being so gorgeous and they're the opposite. Even Tyler Breeze and him getting together, because they have worked as a tag team before. That would make so much sense in the world. It probably catapult Tyler Breeze and then makes Roman even a more credible heel, because you have two of these good-looking guys just basically attacking the locker room for not being as fortunate. So we'll see. Of course, you know, I'll be watching Survivor Series. Hopefully Paris will. She said that she'll try to watch it when she's down where she is. And I hope it's going to be an amazing show. WWE has this canvas to work with now that Seth Rollins is gone, and I hope they don't mess it up. And I think with Dean and Roman, I hope that the match is great, because I saw from the Payback Fatal 4-Way that they had months prior, they had chemistry. They have chemistry. So I hope they're able to take that and run with it and put on a great match. I don't want this main event to be anything less than stellar. I want it to tell a story, and I want it to make sense. Two brothers who are going to face for a championship, whether there's any love lost or not, or whether there's going to be a heel turn or not, the match needs to be nothing less than a match of the year contender. I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited. Of course, if you want to tweet me at Cookies and Cree, COOKIESANDCREE. If you want to tweet Paris, even though she's out of state right now, PareeXO, PAREEXO. And if you want to go on our page, viewsfromtheotr.com, you can also hit us up on our Twitter page at views at the OTR. I apologize. It's views from the OTR. I'm losing my mind. Sorry, guys. And like we said, go from viewsfromotr.com. We have articles. We have our Push series. The two recent articles is Push Naomi and Push Cameron. And we have, of course, our podcast. And then we have articles that I just wrote, Is Hulk Hogan Over? So definitely check those out. Share them. Let everyone know. I'm going to be putting this particular podcast on YouTube. So definitely thumbs it up, subscribe, and share with your friends. And thank you guys so much for listening. I know that I was rambling, but you guys always support me, and I thank you guys so much. Definitely have a great Thanksgiving break. I know that for a lot of you guys have been working hard, whether it's at your jobs or at school or anything that you do to be a better person in life. Enjoy this break. Enjoy Survivor Series. I was about to say SummerSlam. Wow, that was an Eva Marie moment. But enjoy Survivor Series. And if anything happens that you're not really too happy with, try not to let it piss you off too much, especially if Roman Reigns isn't champ. I'm going to try so hard not to be pissed, but we'll see. Thank you guys for listening, and definitely check us out on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher Radio, and sportsgrinddaily.com, where you'll find the podcast. Hope you guys have an amazing day, an amazing weekend. Whenever you listen to this podcast, make good decisions, guys. Adios.